cell phone or a social media is like fire. You use the fire properly, you can use it for cooking. You play with it, it can burn you down completely. Australia, they banned social media till the age of 16. Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk does not allow his children to be on social media because they know what's the other side of it. If you watch 5 to 10 viral videos, you got 5 to 10 dopamine hikes. Now imagine a child's brain. Suddenly when they get these kind of dopamine hikes and they come back to a classroom and they're like, oh my God, this teacher is so boring, my Instagram is so much more easier.
Whatever they are consuming, we cannot take it away, we just need to replace.
Bullying is a very big issue in our country today. This particular child of 11th grade was bullied by a group of friends and he went and complained to the principal, and the principal said, okay, today is Friday, on Monday morning I will talk to them. He committed suicide on the weekend.
Oh shit.
And to parents, I always suggest talk to children from their world and not just from your view of their world.
Hey guys, this is Vishal and welcome to Wealth and Beyond podcast. Wealth and Beyond podcast में आपका स्वागत है. This time I have a special friend who's a renowned psychiatrist and has done so much work in the field of teenagers. So if you are a parent, please share this video with all the parents you know, because we are going to talk about a very interesting topic on what are the current challenges our teenagers face. I have 2 teenage kids and I know problems like screen, like overuse of social media, peer pressure, drug abuse, study pressure, suicidal thoughts, pornography, all these issues are going to be answered by my friend Dr. Kannan. So make sure you share this video with as many people and also let me know in the comments what did you learn the most. And also, by the way, if you have a teenager, we have a special program coming up called Yuva Gurukul Bootcamp. It's happening very soon. It's a 2-day program on how to deal with all the challenges which I just mentioned and how your teenager become a super teen. You can check out more details in the description. Meanwhile, enjoy this podcast and let me know what did you learn the most. So Kannan, welcome to this show and I'm so happy and proud to be interviewing you officially on our podcast show. So we'll make it as a special because you are known for your 7 habits amongst teenagers and kids, and I think we'll focus the whole episode on that. So I have 2 teenagers and you have dealt with thousands of them. So what do you think is the real wealth when it comes to teenagers?
I think the world where we are today, the real wealth is in the teenagers. Wow. If you look at today's teenagers, the kind of opportunity they have is unthinkable in the history of the planet. History of the planet. Can you believe that? Because when we were teenagers, we never had all of these kind of gadgets or facilities where we could sit in anywhere on the planet and know anything which is happening at any other corner of the world in a split second, right, which has never happened. And so with this comes also the distractions. Yes. With this comes also the other types of things that happens because of which teenagers divert. So in my opinion, I think this is one of the best times for teenagers. And if you don't know how to use it well, it can become the worst time for your teenager also. Starting from rebellion behavior to bullying is at unprecedented levels. Teen suicides are also at a rising level alarmingly across the globe. And if you look at it today, there is this whole pressure for academics from one side for a teenager. And suddenly they kind of realize they have very less career opportunities once they grow to their 9th and 10th. Oh, I still end up with only 5 or 6 careers. Now, how do I do that? So there's a lot of grappling on their end in mind. There's a lot of grappling on prioritization of their time. There's a lot of grappling on their identity. I always say that today, teenagers have a large identity crisis. What am I? Where am I going? Who am I? Who are the people who like me? Who are the people I belong to? All of this are part of the teenage identity crisis that is coming up. So we are in a kind of a very beautiful phase where we have great opportunities, but with great opportunities comes great responsibilities, and with great responsibilities come great challenges. So all 3 are there in our teenagers of today's era.
So yeah, that beautifully said. I think let's start with the challenges. Let's decode every challenge they have. The first challenge which we have right now is this social media or the distraction, what we call it. And as they say that now it's not the dearth of opportunities, but it's the distraction which is killing most of the potential in not only teenagers but adults also. But let's focus on teenagers. So how do we deal with this distraction when there is no control on what they are watching, what they are consuming, what kind of content? So how do we take charge of that?
See, as a parent, you're asking as a parent, right? So now as a parent, there is something very important. I always say a cell phone or a social media is like fire. You know, you use the fire properly, you can use it for cooking, you can use it to produce steam, you can use it to produce energy. You play with it, it can burn you down completely. So it's the same with social media. So in my in my opinion, I'm sure you have read in the news, Australia, they banned social media till the age of 16, mandatory. And you know something very profound? Mark Zuckerberg doesn't allow his children to be on social media. Steve Jobs never gave the phone to the kids. Bill Gates also was the same way. Even Elon Musk does not allow his children to be on social media till the age of 18. So all of these people who are pioneers in tech are very clear they don't want their children to be into it because they know what's the other side of it. And in fact, if you want to know the ill effect of social media, there's a brilliant video on YouTube of the parents of children who are affected by social media questioning Mark Zuckerberg in court. And there's a brilliant video that will show to the extent in which social media can create a damage on a child. Now, at the same time, if you ask me, what is the good that social media does for a child who's 16 years and below? I'm hardly able to find anything. See, I'm studying in XYZ school. Now, in my era, if I have to get to know someone from another school, I have to go to a common tuition, or I have to live in a township where that person is there, or must be related to that person. These were the only three ways. Today, I can be anywhere in the country. I can do the geotagging and seeing where that girl is. I can start making her a friend and I can start connecting with them. So now, just look at the growth of social media. Many people don't know the history, though they know, they're not conscious of the history. If you look at Facebook's history, right? It was created as Face Smash for Mark Zuckerberg to connect with girls because his girlfriend ditched him and he wanted to take revenge and he hacked into Harvard site. That was the starting point of what we call as the social media. I always say, if an IIT Delhi student did the same thing, he would have been suspended and probably even dismissed from IIT. It's because the culture there explored him and allowed him to do that. That's where it was built for anonymous connections also. Right. That means I don't have the confidence to talk to a girl, but through social media, I can chat whatever I want and I can connect with her. So before I'm meeting itself, she understands my true personality. So what was built as social connection today is no more actually social connection. It's become as social identity issues. Like say, for example, I had a child who was brought to me. Child had a single social media account. I go on the name and I click it. It opens down to 16 accounts. The child had 16 different identities on social media. And each particular identity, he had a separate set of friends. A separate set of people he'll speak to. A separate set of people he will identify and he will comment on. So this is how children are misusing social media, because I always say if your character and competence is not developed and you're giving a tool like this, invariably children tend to misuse it. And this scaled because of two people in India. One is the Jio revolution. Jio made it free and accessible to everybody, following which everybody started using it, using 4G and 5G very, very efficiently. Second is COVID. Because of COVID, parents gave the cell phone and laptop to the children. Now it's become very hard to take it back because now children have become very addicted to it. And they are just kind of loving it and they're loving their identity inside of this. So this, in my opinion, is the challenge that social media faces. What is the reason why a child should be in social media? Why should a child connect with children from other schools or other cities? What's the end game of that? Third, what is it that it's going to help him in future? Because many things that you see in social media are not the truth anymore. Right. You know, anyone with a camera can come up on a social media platform and talk whatever he wants, and it looks as though he's very real. Right. I'll give you an example. So in Tamil, I started a channel, social media channel from zero. Zero followers, zero posts. I started a channel. First 4 videos I posted got me around 400 followers. 400 followers for first 4 videos. The fifth video I posted, I went from 450 followers to 48,000 followers in a span of 24 hours. Do you know what I spoke about? I spoke about love and infatuation. And you know who was sharing my posts? All people from the age group of 13 years to 22 years. And you know who they were tagging? Their ex-girlfriends and ex-boyfriends and current boyfriends. So my post became a place for them to bash each other. You getting that? So if you look at the Instagram especially, the number of children using it predominantly is the age group of 13 to 23. Maximum number of children are full-time addicted to it. And that, in my opinion, is very scary. I'll tell you why. You look at any video that goes viral, they call it the hook. That means the first 5 seconds, the video has to be very interesting. Yes. If a video is very interesting for the first 5 seconds, it gets shared. If it gets shared, the algorithm tries and posts and boosts it up. So what happens is when a child watches the video, the first 5 seconds, they post something obnoxious, yes, something that connects with the child, something the child will go crazy about. You know, something very crazy. Watch this video and you will get a lot of girlfriends. Yeah. Immediately he wants to watch. That's where they start sharing with their friends. They start saving it. So now what happens? Everyone in the interest to get more likes and to do that, they post content which is very vulgar, the content that is very obnoxious, and content which is really gets a child addictive to it. You get what is called the dopamine hike. You know, every video you watch is a spike. And I always tell people that if you watch 5 to 10 viral videos back to back, from the 11th or 12th video, you'll start feeling a little down. Because you get tired. You've got 5 to 10 dopamine hikes. You're getting that now. Imagine a child's brain. Its child's brain is still not exposed to many things in life. And suddenly when they get these kind of dopamine hikes and they come back to a classroom and they look at the teacher is talking in monotone. Now the same teacher is so boring for them. They're not able to interact with the teacher and they're like, oh my God, this teacher is so boring. My Instagram is so much more easier. So children have lost interest in first attending lectures. Children have lost a lot of interest in reading books. Can you believe big companies like Landmark and Higginbothams have gone bankrupt? Amazon, which was a book selling platform, is today selling everything along with books to sustain itself. Why? It shows that the habit of reading books has gone completely. Today, children read books predominantly only to clear an exam, not to actually learn from a book and nostalgic. And I'll tell you why that is very important, Vishal. Now, if I read a book, say I ask you to think about a car, okay? You might think a red car, I may think a blue car, someone will think a green car. Now, when you ask a child to think about a car, the child will think multiple different cars. You might think a BMW, Benz. But if you watch a video of a car, you only watch that video. Right. So you exactly know. So there's no creativity thinking over here. There is no imagination happening. So the level of imagination and creativity has shrunk drastically for children of today. Because they are now restricted to just one framework and they are starting to live in that framework. And the last challenge that it faced, a very serious challenge that social media face, is AI. I had a child, 8th standard boy. He was taught AI in school. You know, today AI is the in thing. AI in school. And you know what he did? He took the photographs of all the girl kids, created nude AI avatars of those girls and circulated it among all the boys. And then what happened? One of the boys showed it to a girl and it became prevalent among the girls. Now the girls wanted to take him and, complain to the principal. And you know what this boy has done? He stole jewelry from his mom, from his house, gave the jewelry to each girl, split it up and said, I'll give you this jewelry, keep it with you, but please don't complain about me.
This happened in India?
This happened in Chennai.
Oh, okay.
In a very, very famous school in Chennai. Children from very good background, they did it. This is what happens when AI goes to the hands of wrong people. When technology goes to people and children who don't have character, who don't have competence, and who are looking at the values of the influencers as their values. Because that's very important. Today we have a drastic lack of role models for children today. Very sad, drastic lack of role models. Because children today don't connect much with old age role models. See, like if you go talk to a child, honesty is the best policy. The child will look back and tell you, show me one honest politician in India. And you're like dumbstruck. Who do you say? How do you say? How do you justify? Because whoever you say, the child goes online and gets another content of them and comes and shows it to you. So today, it's a really complicated challenge what social media is offering. And that's a big challenge for our children of our future. Disengaged. Many of them have become addicts to the reels and all that. Third, they easily get influenced by peer pressure. They have very shallow relationships.
Yes. So now I understand the gravity of this issue which we are facing. Now there's certain things which is in our control and certain which are not. Like the platforms are there, the social media is there. Now the only thing which we can control is our kids, our teenagers, and put them the right values and the right habits. So let's say we can't stop social media or we can't take it back because we have already given it. Now, how do we make them understand, or how do we put those values or those habits so that they don't go that path and go the right path? So how would you, if your child or your school people are doing this, how would you train them or how do you coach them?
So the first and foremost is you must build trust in your child with you. Your relationship with your child is directly proportional to how your child will open up to you. So if you want your child to open up to you, first you need to actually have open conversations, number one. Then please avoid criticism on your child. One of the things that makes children shut up from their parents is the criticism that parents give. And parents have this very knack of giving criticism. I told you so. You never listen to me. Had you listened to me, you will become like that. Now, these are things that irritate the child to the core, and because of it, children shut down. So, avoid criticisms in height of emotions. Third, when emotions are very high, logic of a child is very low. When logic is low, any advice you give, only tragic happens. So, at that time, what you really need to do is, rather than talking about logic, be with your child, connect with your child, talk to your child from their world. And when you're going to talk about social media, rather than you telling your child not to use social media, have open conversations on the good effects and the ill effects of social media. Place it on the table and ask your child to take an informed decision. Now, when the child takes a decision, that's his decision. When you tell a child to take your decision, that is you forcing a child to take a decision. Both are two different things. So I would always suggest to have open conversations, number one. Have building a trusting relationship, which is fundamental. Avoiding criticism at the heights of emotions. Never engaging with your child when emotions are very high. Connecting with the child at that particular point of time. Fifth, if you as a parent can build trust that when someone threatens them on social media, attacks them on social media, or solicits them on social media, the child comes up to you and tells you, Papa, this happened. Now, immediately if you start fuming, immediately they will shut off. They will not open up to you. But if you're calm, relaxed, you engage with them in an open conversation and you just tell them, Daddy is there with you. Mummy is there with you. Anything is there, we are in it together. I will bring you out. I trust you. This is one of magical statement. I trust you. I trust you that you will do the best. And if there is anything, I want you to know Mama, Papa are always there with you to support you. And by constantly, unconditionally reinforcing it again and again and having a proactive approach towards the child rather than a reactive approach, seeing something go wrong, is the fundamental to actually building a great relationship. This is the starting point.
And as you just mentioned about proactive and reactive, it comes to me that, okay, we both know 7 habits. Of course, you know much better than, like, tell me about how 7 habits of effective people or effective teenagers can help the one which you do in schools. Tell me about those things, what you do exactly to the audience, and then tell me how these 7 habits can change a teenager's life in the long run.
Brilliant. So the 7 habits came about because of my passion and that I wanted to do something for children. Because when I used to sit in my clinic, parents will bring their children to me. First, a mother, father will start. Sir, son is like this, sir, daughter is like that, sir, they're doing like this, sir, they're doing like that, sir, big complaint. Parents will go out and children will say, sir, mother not good, sir, father not good, sir, teacher not good, sir, nobody good, sir, only I am good, sir. And I'll not know what to do. I'll give all counseling. He will listen to the counseling. He'll come back next week and tell me, sir, live with my parents, sir, you will give me national award for living with them. You attend the max class in my school and see, sir, for your depression, you'll come to me only for counseling. So that's where I really realized there's a whole gap between our children's generation and our generation. And that's where I was looking out for a program that will holistically build character in children and build habitual pattern in children. I always say this, counseling and advice will only last for 48 hours. Because after 48 hours, people tend to forget it a lot. But what really lasts is building habitual patterns. And this whole 7 habits was a beautiful program I saw in North Carolina, done by a principal by name is Mariel Summers. She took the book of 7 habits, applied it in a school, and brought a 360-degree transformation in a school with a shutting down order to becoming the top magnet school in the United States for 2 times in a row. And she was the principal of the year 2 times in the US. So this was something that I saw fascinating. And what I saw there was children from kindergarten right up to 5th grade were using the habits as a way of life. And these children, when they go to middle school and high school, were so obedient, they are so proactive, they knew what their systems was, their values was. It was so beautiful to see how they were standing up for themselves. And I'll be very amazed. And this is something that I truly saw was in Brazil. When I was in Sao Paulo, they took me to a school where they were, for 12 years, they're doing the 7 habits. And you'll be surprised that area has a lot of drugs, but not a single case of drug in that school. That means the children over there stood up against drugs, even if their parents were taking the drugs. And they stood up to build values and character, which is based on the wonderful program called the 7 Habits. So this fascinated me. And in 2017, I brought this thing to India. I started with one school. Today, I work with 140 schools across India today. So my aim is to build schools, to partner with existing schools, wherein which we can build a culture of leadership, academics, and value systems as a way of life. And in that, the 7 habits are found to be very effective in creating that. Like the habit number 1, be proactive. It helps a child to handle anger. It helps a child to handle laziness. It helps a child to handle reactive behavior. And this builds in a child a culture of taking initiative and responsibility. I'm sure you will agree, taking responsibility is very important today.
Yes.
Second habit is what we call as begin with the end in mind. And here we look at what is your end in mind and how do you want it. Now, if you look at most of the children, you ask them, what do you want to do in life? I don't know. Maybe this, maybe that. They don't have a clear end in mind. And when you don't have an end in mind, what happens? Everything becomes your mind.
Right.
The Instagram becomes your mind, the YouTube becomes your mind, friends become your mind, alcohol becomes your mind, drugs become your mind because your mind is empty. You don't have a clear focus. And habit 2 talks about how do we get our children to have focus on their life. Habit 3 is about prioritization. We tell people, I always tell children, your time is your best asset. And one of the best assets of time is your childhood. Yes. And when you waste that in unnecessary things, you've wasted a very big part of your life. So I tell children all the time, again and again, prioritize your time. Put your big rocks, what we call as the most important job. Get it done. Once it is done, you can fit everything around that. So the 3rd habit talks about priority. 4th habit and the 5th habit are win-win and seek first to understand. Today, Vishal, you'll be very surprised. Bullying is a very big issue in our country today. Many people don't talk about it. Bullying and targeting a child in a classroom is a very, very big issue. I'll tell you what happened in Chennai last week. Chennai, in a particular school, very famous school in Chennai. You can Google about it. It's all over the press. This particular child of 11th grade was bullied by a group of friends. And he went and complained to the teacher. Teacher warned the students. The students just, let it off go and were continuously bullying him. And one particular day, the bullying became a lot and he complained to his parents. So his parents came and complained to the principal, and the principal apparently called the boys and warned them a bit, don't do like this. And you know what the boys did? When this boy went to the toilet, they went behind him because in the toilet there is no CCTV camera. They took his face and put it inside the closet and flushed his face. This boy was devastated and he went and complained to the principal, and the principal said, okay, today is Friday, 2 days holiday, on Monday morning I will talk to them. He committed suicide on the weekend. He died. Jumped from the 4th floor. Sad part. That's the pain of what bullying can actually do. And this is just one case. There are many cases that are going silently. Children with self-harm injuries. And here I always say, seek first to understand the children. Think win-win with the children. If children can understand each other and think win-win, that's the first beautiful way they create a beautiful synergy, which is a result, which is habit number 6, where they all come together, They stand for each other. You know, our days when we were in school, we had a group of boys standing for each other, wanting to help each other, support each other. That's the synergy we actually bring on. And the last habit, what we call is habit number 7, which is sharpen the saw, where we talk to children how they can balance their body, mind, heart, and spirit. And when they manage all the 4, that's where they live a whole and a healthy life. That's what the 7 habits is all about.
So that was like a 10-minute masterclass on 7 habits. But if you have to teach that, I suppose you do it for 2 full days in your programs, where you teach the teachers, and then teachers
take
the
it to the students.
Students from standard 1 to standard 10.
Yes.
And that's a whole curriculum.
Yes, whole curriculum. And for the teens, we do a little bit of boot camps, but predominantly we work with the schools. And why I work with the schools is very important. See, if there is a pot of water and it's polluted, I cannot take a little bit of the water, purify it and put it back into that. Because the pot will again make the other water also impure. So that's where I felt any amount of counseling will not help a child to thrive if the environment in the school is not conducive to thrive. So to create that environment as a conducive environment is what the mission of our company is, Live Life Education. How do we make the children learn the 7 habits in a way that they can actually thrive in a beautiful school environment? And second, for the children who are not there, like how you have also been doing, is to do it as an online program to help the children to understand the 7 habits and live their life holistically.
Yes. In fact, after I met you and after I learned these 7 habits from you, we saw the power of these 7 habits. In fact, we took a license from you, and we have started teaching 7 habits to our trading community, our stock market community. And then, of course, we passed on to their kids also. So we have a program called Yuva Gurukul, which is about teenagers. Yuva is the youth. And we teach them 7 habits. Then we teach them the finance part of it. We talk about communication, confidence, and also we bring in some spiritual meditation part of it. So I believe that what we both have done so many programs together in our 30s and 40s, and we felt that we should have learned way back. Earlier. So we want to give it to our kids and teenagers. So that's why we said, let's do a program which teaches them. Now I want to talk about that sharpen the saw. We are talking about sharpen the saw, and we both have been sharpening our saw since a long time. And that talks about formal education versus self-education. So how I put my teenagers or my kids into self-education mode when they already have so much of formal education, but they also need this part of it. So how do you balance both, and what are some of the most important kind of courses or programs or books they must learn before they become 18 or 20 so that they're grounded?
So if you ask me, one of the very important thing for children is give exposure to children. You need to give a lot of exposures. Now, every child learns in a different format. Some child loves more auditory. Some childs are more visual. Some children are more kinesthetic. So you need to identify which form of learning is very good for your child. So I'll give you a classic example. There was this one child at the age of 15, he used to always go to his grandfather's place and used to have long walks with his grandfather. And grandfather used to talk all of grandfather stories of life, business and everything. At 16, he went and asked his grandfather, I want to do something in life. Where do you think I should go and work? He said, go work at McDonald's. You know, McDonald's is a beautiful place to work. Just go work there, you will learn a lot. So at 16, when all his other friends were doing other activities, this boy went to a McDonald's and he was doing that packaging. You know, in McDonald's, you get around 50 to 60 orders in like 5-10 minutes. The car comes in the US and you have to pack it. So he was learning how to wrap it. He learned for the first time what a conveyor belt is. You know what's a conveyor belt? Yeah. Where they have the McDonald's, one puts the cheese and one puts that. He learned that. And that changed his life completely. Do you know who that is? It's none other than Jeff Bezos of Amazon.
Oh.
Yes. So that's why in Amazon, if you see, there is a conveyor belt where the parcels go. His idea for that came from what his grandfather gave him at the age of 16, the exposure to McDonald's. And that's why I always tell parents, it's not about you wanting to make your child an entrepreneur at 28 or 30. You should start at least 13 years.
13.
Giving them 13. 10 to 13 is the right age where you can expose them to entrepreneurs, to entrepreneurial stories, to, if the child is very auditory, to podcasts. Yes. They can listen to good podcasts. And it's not about just listening to the podcast. Make the podcast interesting. Yeah. You also listen with your child. Then you have a discussion with your child. Give an exposure to the child. That's when the children start learning. Second is to read books. But today, unfortunately, children don't have that interest in reading books. But I would always suggest the first book every child should read is The 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teens by Sean Covey. It's a brilliant book which talks about teenage and how you can actually adapt to that and what are the challenges. It's so relevant today as much as it was relevant 15 years back when it was first written. The second, I would always suggest The Psychology of Money. It's a brilliant book to learn about money, the basics of money. Previously, I would have said Rich Dad, Poor Dad, but now The Psychology of Money is more relevant to today's terms.
In fact, that is a book everyone should read.
Everyone should read. Every human being should read that book because that's a brilliant book that talks about money, talks about the world, it talks about finance, it talks about one of the most important commodities in our life, which is money at the end of the day. So Psychology of Money is a brilliant book. I would suggest every child should read it. Third book I would always say is the new book. So 7 Habits was written in the 85. Something that's a little more newer for a newer audience would be Atomic Habits by James Clear.
Yeah.
It's a brilliant book. It talks about how do you build chunking habits, how do you create that habit as a way of life, and how do you chunk it into compartments and you actually read it. These three would be my hands down recommendation. The fourth, if you would give me a chance to read about entrepreneurship, I would really love if you can read Reshmi Bansal's book. Reshmi Bansal, she's an IIM author who wrote a couple of books called Connecting the Dots, Stay Hungry, Stay Foolish, where she profiled a set of entrepreneurs and it's brilliant. It's just 4 to 5 pages per entrepreneur story. It's a head turner. And you get real insights of how entrepreneurs think and how they strategize and how they do the book. It's a brilliant read. She's very good in her writing. It's a little old book. I think it's around 8 years old at least, 8 or 10 years old. But it's brilliant. It stays relevant even today. And if you're very good in reading and you're an voracious reader, like you love reading, in that case, hands down, 2 books I would always suggest is Walter Isaacson's autobiography of Steve Jobs and Elon Musk. See, many people write autobiography. They sit, they interview and write. But this guy, Walter Isaacson, is very different. He lives with the entrepreneur for a year. He goes with him for meetings. He goes with him for events. He goes with them for family outings. He watches them across the year and then puts his things into the book. So he has profiled a couple of people, but these 2 are my ultimate favorite. And Steve Jobs, I think nobody has profiled Steve Jobs better than him because Steve Jobs, when he was discovered with 3rd stage cancer and was about to die, invited Walter Isaacson to live with him for the last 1.5 years. Wow. So some of very profound insights you get about the man, how he thought, what he thought about life, the meaning of life, building a higher purpose. And I always say the person who starts reading the book will not be the same person who puts the book down. Wow. It's a totally different book. So Steve Jobs by Walter Isaacson and Elon Musk by Walter Isaacson. And why I recommend Elon Musk is, I think come what may, when you look at the world history, Elon Musk's contribution is hands down one of, I think after Einstein, he would go in that same era by the time he is actually done. Can you imagine in the history of humanity, nobody has landed a rocket backwards. Nobody. And he has done it. He has now opened the brains of everybody to start to think that yes, landing a rocket backwards is possible. And he has changed that paradigm of a lot of people. And I think the credit may not go to him many times for many things. Even our UPI was inspired from what PayPal did. Yeah. PayPal's inspiration was a UPI. UPI's inspiration was PayPal. So many things that I think that Elon Musk has contributed is phenomenal. I'm not okay with many of his political sayings, but I think as an entrepreneur, he's a phenomenal, once in a generation entrepreneur, which I think every child should learn and try and emulate even a part of it.
I think I need to read a couple of those books, but I'm so happy that my daughter is 12 and she's actually reading Atomic Habits right now as we speak. So I know books are very important, and then also we need to have, as you said, there's lack of role models right now. Now, even like we can't do anything about that, but how do you find a mentor or a coach or a guide or a role model whom we can emulate. And what I understand is that although whatever they are consuming, like if they're consuming a content, we cannot take it away. We need to replace. Like what I do with my kids is like they also watch a content series or Netflix or stuff like that. But then I also give them that, okay, you need to finish this podcast, or you need to finish this particular series or video, or a course on Mind Valley, and then you get to watch this. So there's a payoff to finish that. Now, in that, as my original question is that how do you find a right role model and follow that person so that it doesn't go anywhere?
So I would always say today to follow a holistic role model is very difficult because today is the era of niches. You need a niche. And what's the niche? There are role models for that niche. So I would always suggest experiment. That's my word. Watch a role model. If you think he's your role model, learn from him. See, every human has a plus and a negative. And I would always say focus on the pluses. You can take as much of the pluses, and for the negatives, you take another man's pluses. Right over there. So you don't have to follow that person's negatives and mistakes. And I always say, negatives teach you more than even positives of a person. The same role models, negatives will actually teach you a lot more on what things you need not do in your own life.
Yeah, I don't want to be like that person. That
exactly.
At least you have to,
yes, exactly. I don't want to be like that person who screwed up in this particular area. Or I don't want to be this person. See, like for example, a big role model for me was Michael Jackson. But the same Michael Jackson ruined himself because of his plastic surgeries and the amount of drugs he had to take to keep himself looking that. So that's a lesson I learned on the ill effects of a lot of things that can go wrong with fame. You know, so you could always learn the best of both worlds and then try and see which one you want to actually do it. See, like for example, you take basketball. Everyone will say Michael Jordan is my role model, you know, hands down, or Kobe Bryant. These are the two people most people would say in the US. But if you look at Michael Jordan, he was not loved by his teammates as much because he was a very tough human being. He used to hold them accountable. He was very abusive. So there were a lot of sides of him which were not that great. The same with Steve Jobs. He was a very tough taskmaster. Very, very brutal. When it comes to performance, he wants it on it means he wants it on it. So there are a lot of sides of which you could learn, a lot of sides that you can adapt to your style. So I would always suggest pick up a couple of role models. Don't pick one or two. Learn from them, evolve from them. And from there you will get another role model. See, when I read Steve Jobs' book, I read about how he got his inspiration from autobiography of a yogi, Yogananda. So then I went and started reading about Yogananda. I read about his book. It gave me a whole different perspective. Then he spoke about how Alan Watts, who's a mindfulness meditator, how he influenced Steve Jobs. Then I went and started reading about Alan Watts. I started reading about his works, reading about what he's doing, did a couple of his meditations and processes. So that way you could pick one role model and from there you could go to a couple of the others and you can create your own experience of it. Because in today's world, you cannot have only one role model for everything. See, like for example, stock market. You're a pioneer in that. I can learn from you. I can learn from you about from your mistakes. And you being a stock market trader, I watched a lot of your videos. In many of that, you're very authentic. You also talk about your losses. You also talk about your mistakes. See, that's what a role model should do. You don't talk only about your success. You talk about your failures also. You talk about your insecurities. In fact, I was talking to your wife and she was asking me, how can I be more vulnerable? See, vulnerability is a strength. Previously, we thought vulnerability is a weakness. Don't show your vulnerable side outside. But today, vulnerability is a strength. And if you can show your vulnerability outside efficiently, you build that culture inside of you. So I would suggest everyone to pick a role model. Don't stick only with that for lifetime because that era is gone. Evolve with your role model. From your role model, you may get other role models. Put it together and you will find your own role model inside.
Okay, now we come to this, what you just said that you learn about Paramhans and yogi and those meditations and all that. How, first of all, do you meditate? One, and second, do you think how we can get this meditation culture or meditation to teenagers?
No, teenagers getting is very difficult. Because see, what has happened, I'll tell you. It's not that it's very difficult, it's possible. But it's possible with a lot of consistent effort. I always would recommend for teenagers to start with something as simple as Bastrika, maybe Art of Living, that Bastrika meditation, Soham. Something very simple like that, which is more of exercise and calming your brain than your typical meditation because they are not in a focus to meditate. Second, I'll always tell children to actually do pranayamas, small hits, small meditations like 5 minutes, 3 minutes, 6 minutes, calming down techniques, small things so that they start aligning themselves to a single focus slowly and consistently. If you ask me, for me, meditation has had a profound impact in my life. Profound. I've attended, you can name it, and I've attended that program. And I've practiced most of the programs for a consistent period in my time. And I've found meditation to have a very profound impact, brings in calmness, clarity of thought, helps you handle stress more effectively, helps you to actually rationalize things, look at life as the whole perspective, and create more meaning in life. And I truly believe every human being must meditate, at least for 10 to 15 minutes. Now, people ask me, should I close my eyes, sit like this? No. Even if you're focused on a single task, at the elimination of every other task with laser focus, that also is a meditation. If I'm eating, if I'm focused fully on my eating, the elimination of the thoughts and fully focus on my food, that is also a meditation. So meditation need not be always about just closing your eyes and thinking about or chanting a mantra. It can be doing your day-to-day activities with full mindfulness and presence of consciousness in that activity. That is meditation. So I would suggest children to start doing any activity they're doing with full mindfulness. Definitely the mind will wander. And when the mind wander, just tell yourself, come back and bring yourself back to focus. Start with that.
All right, so great about this meditation thing, and I also like that we also introduce Art of Living Foundation in our organization, in our institute, where we teach the meditation courses like Sudarshan Kriya and all with our adult students, and also their teenagers, where they are in Yuva Gurukul. We do a YES program. It's called Youth Empowerment Course, where they teach about the shorter version of Sudarshan Kriya plus meditations plus pranayams and all the life lessons. So it becomes a holistic learning program about meditation, 7 habits, then entrepreneurship, finance, communication, everything under one roof. And that's my pet project, because my kids are teenagers and I want them to learn this, and that's why we started this community project. And I'm sure you are also equally part of this, responsible for this particular initiative because of the 7 habits thing. Now let's talk about what's the future? What does it look like in the next 5 years, 10 years? Like, India has a growth story. India has a good potential. Now, many kids, they want to do this, like, I want to go and study in US and may go and study in UK. So what do you think? I personally feel that there is a lot more opportunity in India itself rather than going outside. What's your take on that?
100% there's a lot more opportunity in India. But the thing about India is that you need to know how to use the opportunity, because we have 1.8 billion people. If you look at the US, what's the advantages of the US? I'll tell you. It's very multicultural. You go to a university, you have people coming from 50 countries, 80 countries, 100 countries. You go to any university or college in India, maximum 5 countries or 6 countries only people are coming from. So you learning global market, building a network globally becomes very difficult from India, from an Indian college. Okay. Now, if you studied in Harvard and Stanford, it's not the course you study that makes a difference in your life. It's the network you build in Harvard and Stanford that makes a difference in your life. Right. The kind of VCs you meet, the kind of pitch competitions you can get to, the kind of access to money, the access to information that you get from Harvard, and the kind of ecosystem that you're coming through, that is priceless. So that's why children from here go there, because for India to develop that kind of a system, it will take a lot of time. Takes a lot of time and ecosystem. Now, once you learn the system over there, understand the whole culture, you can always come back to India and start something fabulous. Because there, you will become like a bridge between what's happening over there and what we can actually implement over here. Now, in India, if you take, say, I don't go abroad, but I want to study only in India and do something in India, then what happens is you have to do 5 to 10 times something innovative to stand out in the crowd. So that's where your adaptability becomes very important. How adaptable I am, how I'm able to learn, unlearn and relearn, and how I'm able to adapt myself to the needs of the thing. See, what happens in India is, I got a gold medal in my undergrad. That means I should get a good job. Doesn't happen. You got a gold medal is very good. You have the academic knowledge. But when you go to a job, you need a theoretical knowledge and the skill. See, I may get 100 out of 100 in learning swimming by studying a textbook. But do you think I can swim without getting into a swimming pool? No. I have to get into the pool. So in India, one thing that's lacking in Indian colleges is in ecosystem. An ecosystem of internships, an ecosystem of children getting real life experiences, an ecosystem of them working under someone and getting real world business skills at a very young age. That's lacking very much. Now, the government with the new national education policy has come up with a lot of things to try and build internships, but still, the stipend given is very less. The exposure given is very less. So predominantly, many of the interns are being used for doing hereby their jobs in India, whereas there's a structured way of doing it abroad. So that's why people prefer going abroad for colleges than going to India, especially the elite who can afford it. So I would always say, yes, have a mixture of both. Maybe do your undergrad here and do your postgrad there, so you get the exposure of both worlds. Or the other way around, do your undergrad there and come back and do your postgrad here and build a startup over here. But ecosystem-wise, yes, India is very good for startups. But if you look at all the startups that have hit $1 billion, predominantly have been technology startups. Technology related, technology integrated startups. Very less has been brick and mortar startups. Whereas in US, you will find all kinds of startups getting funding. So that ecosystem of funding is still not happened in India. But eventually, with the kind of push our current government is giving, enormous push for entrepreneurship, hopefully something will happen. And the last thing is taxation. India is still a very highly taxated country. And because of the taxation and because of multiple tax involved at the central level and state level, when you start and run a company, there is a lot of legal things you have to go around and find is this right or that right? And everybody has an interpretation of the law in India. Whereas in US or many of the other developed countries, it's very simple. This is what it is. You do XYZ, it's done. Nobody will trouble you. Nobody will trouble you. So you just pay your taxes and have the lifestyle of yours. Now, you will be very surprised, Vishal. In the last 1 year, almost 16 to 18,000 people have relocated to Dubai and the Middle East. And one of the main reasons they say is less of taxes is one. Second, for the taxes I pay in India, I get better quality of life over there, which is roads, healthcare, education, exposure. So people are preferring a kind of a globalized in the Middle East, which I think is a big loss for India. Because all of these people are taking away money, which they could have probably used and spent in India and spending it in another country, which I think we should expose our children to, but always tell them that there's nothing like India. Let's build our country. Bharat Mata ki jai.
Yes, absolutely. And as towards the end of this podcast, I would like to have one advice you would give to, if this podcast has been watched by a teenager, what one advice would you give? And if this podcast has been watched by a parent, what one advice you would give to the parent for the teenager?
Brilliant. If it's watched by a teenager, one advice I would always give a teenager is, you are in the best time, in the best place on earth, which is India. You have the best networks. You have imagine and see a child from anywhere in India can learn from anybody in the world just with a cell phone. Yes. That kind of access was never got in the history of this country. So that is there with you. Use it wisely. Right. Use it wisely. Use it with a lot of values. Use it with a future foresight of what I'm watching, how it's going to impact my life, and how I can take my life to the next level. It will be one of the best times for you in your life. Great. And to parents, I always suggest, talk to children from their world and not just from your view of their world. Understand their world. Their world is way different from our world. We were the world who used to watch and look at the Doordarshan symbol and keep waiting when that symbol will get over. Today's children have 2 crore channels on a cell phone. 2 crore channels on a cell phone. Their accessibility is a lot. And for parents, I'd always say, definitely many teenagers know much, much more than their parents. And that's the reality today. I was with a youngster who was 19 years old. And the way he was using ChatGPT, I don't think in this birth I'll be able to use ChatGPT like that. Unbelievable. He was creating documentaries, PPTs, diagrams. He was creating PDF documents in seconds, And the way he was thinking, having 5 chats open and tuck, doing it, I really felt I got very old. So rather than sitting and fighting with the generation, I think we should start synergizing with the generation, understanding the generation, thinking win-win, learning from them, rather than going and fighting with them with conflicts, and looking at how we can all grow together as a family. I think that's the mindset we should have.
Yes, absolutely. I think it was a great masterclass for teenagers as well as parents to learn a lot from this particular video. Of course, we are not done. We keep talking for 4 hours, 5 hours. We have been together for so many events and sessions together. So, of course, there'll be a part 2 to this podcast with Kannan, and you can check him out on his Instagram, his YouTube channel, his Facebook. He does a lot of good work, especially in the schools area. And if you are a school owner and if you want to get 7 habits in your school, right from grade 1 to grade 10, you can connect with him. And I think that will be the best decision for your school, right? So I thank you so much, Kannan, for being part of this podcast. And let's connect again on part 2. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Wasn't that great? So much of wisdom and so much of knowledge about how we can deal with our teenagers and what are the challenges they are facing, and how beautifully he explained all the concepts. And I'm sure you have learned a lot from this. And also, if you want to solve more problems with your teenagers, you want to get your teenager to become a super teen, we have this Yuva Gurukul bootcamp which is coming up soon. So check out more details, and also share this podcast with all the parents you know who are dealing with the same challenges as you are doing. I'll see you in the next podcast. Till then, all the best.